Hi guys, I hope that you are now starting to realize how fun this party can be with a bit of consciousness and awareness and a bit more sort of social awareness. We can actually start to have some fun and evolve. Yay! Now, you can't really have a party without drugs and alcohol. And this has been, I think, one of the biggest social issues that we've been facing for centuries. And a lot of people are very hard on themselves for being addicts of some sort. Now, I get it. It's not ideal, but when you're born into alienation, your options in terms of comfort and support and all of that are like minimal. And we need to start understanding that drugs and alcohol are something that have been around forever. Before we existed, magic mushrooms did, and before we existed, so did a whole heap of other things that were used to, I don't like the word healing, it gets thrown around so much that it's actually kind of lost its purpose within the drugs and alcohol window of opportunity, because it's all fine and dandy to say, well, I'm just going to have this and heal myself. What happens tomorrow when you step back out into the streets of alienation and rejection and shame, and you're made to feel like what you're doing is completely wrong? You're just going to go back and want to take another one and another one and another one. And the thing is, we're kind of all out of blue pills. And as society, we need to kind of come together and start to look at drugs and alcohol as quite something serious, and how we can look into places like Amsterdam and Oregon at the minute who are actually legalizing drugs. And what that has shown is that rather than push it underground, we're actually able to use them effectively. So I've been to lots of parties, I've been to lots of places, and yeah, I've seen a lot, like a lot. And all I can say is that we're playing roulette with our brains at the minute. So, I might think having a trip is fun, and then I'm like, because I didn't mentally prepare for that. And when drugs and alcohol are taken in a setting, i.e. ayahuasca ceremonies, i.e. places that are designed, psychedelic therapies that are now being used to help with depression, it's really important to understand that when we are going into the I need something, I need my fix, what are we fixing? Because regardless of what you take or whatever you shove down your throat or whatever it is, until we fix society, we're going to remain addicts, and everyone's like, oh, I'm not, and I'm not. Everybody is addicted to something, whether it be caffeine, whether it be chocolate. Being an addict per se is not a bad thing, but because of the way society pushes us all into the same category in the same box, what that does is it actually counterbalances what we're trying to do. So, again, going back into that need for love and security, that we're not getting out there because you don't practice the same things as your family or your friends or the cultures that you were brought up into. So then you're alienated and pushed away. And then when you do turn to drugs or alcohol, you're then even further alienated and pushed out into society as if you're bad. It's not always the case. A lot of the time we need things like ayahuasca or Gaudi, who needed his absinthe in order to create these amazing structures. Our conscious mind can be like a prison. And it's up to us to start looking at how we can read between the lines and start to see that things aren't actually as bad as they seem. And by looking at good practice internationally, i.e., Amsterdam, how when you legalize drugs, it actually becomes less of a problem, and we don't actually need as many services because we can start to service each other and look after each other. And I think that's really important to mention, is that you can't keep sweeping the drugs and alcohol topic under the table and say, oh, it's a cultural thing. It's international culture, and we are all alienated for trying magic mushrooms or for trying things. And it's fine to try them, but just do it in the right environment and the right setting. You know, you can't take loads of everything and then go, oh, you know, blew my brains out. That's not the point. Because when you do finally pick your brain back up, you're going to be maybe in a worse state than you started, because you went all the way up there only to realize that when you came back down, you're still in the alienation, and there's no changing that. So, you know, and that's why people congregate, and that's why people get together, and then you got your pushes, and you got this, and you got that. And what we need to start doing is stop being so hard, number one, on ourselves, and number two, stop being so hard on each other. And if we feel that drugs and alcohol are such a problem within ourselves and within society, how together as the alienation can we come and band together and start fighting for psychedelic therapies that are proven to work? But the problem is, again, it's fine, I'm not depressed anymore, but then you put me back out in a shit job, you know, I'm going to want to drink for breakfast. I'm sorry. I can give you a clear example of me working on a market stall, and I just needed my whiskey for breakfast. Otherwise, I couldn't deal with people. And that is the fundamental factor that we're all facing, is that regardless of how you try and blow your brains out, when you do finally get your head together, you're just in exactly the same position. And the only way that is going to change is if we stick together and start looking at drugs and alcohol from a holistic perspective. Because you all know, particularly now with this virus, yes, it's serious. I'm not denying that. But there are other remedies that we can take, because a lot of the problems that are building up in our bodies are due to blockages, emotional blockages, mental blockages, blockages of society, and they don't have anywhere to go, so they manifest themselves into illnesses. And because we're not dealing with those illnesses on a psychological level, what happens is it just gets buried and buried and buried and buried until maybe something even worse happens to you. So, you know, we've already lost so many amazing people from drugs and alcohol because of alienation, because they didn't feel that they fit in, or that they could go to somebody, or that anybody could understand them. The only drug we need is love, and that comes from understanding that everybody is different in their chemical composition, and what might work for you might not work for me, and that's cool. But rather than project our opinions onto others, let's start looking at how all these, from ancient cultures through to modern day societies, have used drugs and alcohol as a way to promote some form of liberation within the self and within society. Tomorrow I'm going to go further into addictions, but sex and sexuality, and why we're so addicted to sex and sexuality, and how we need to start looking at ways we can transform ourselves. So rather than, again, that addiction, we can start to look at ourselves as, you know, the masculine and feminine, and how we can come together, not just to procreate, but to enjoy ourselves. So I hope this all helped. Please like, share, pass it on, and get the word out there. Have a great day.